Hey, this is Jeff, and welcome back to Fallout 3, Pacifism, and more. The big news of the day is that version 1.0 of the mod is now available on the Nexus. I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, after the end of the last episode, I found 4 more pre-war books in the library. Couldn't get the last one because there were still some raiders alive in there, plus a couple of skill books and other loot, and the power armor from the paladin who died in the children's wing. I used that to repair the one I already had, and the damage resistance is up to 20, which is almost twice as good as the leather armor. The strength buff doesn't quite make up for the weight difference, but I'm going to give it a go when we head for Vault 87. Wearing power armor slows you down a lot, but somewhat counterintuitively, just carrying it in your inventory makes no difference at all, so I hotkeyed the lab code in case I need a quick burst of speed. Shameless plug, for the full details, watch my Run Speed Demystified video, link in the description. But before we go to Vault 87, we need to go back to Vault 101, because the clock is ticking to start trouble on the Homefront, and I definitely don't want to get locked out of that, which might happen if the search for the Gek takes more than a few days. And while rocking up to our old home in power armor might turn some heads, I think the lab coat suits loose a little better. And we saw the notification message for the Vault 101 emergency broadcast last week, but I didn't actually listen to it yet.
This is an automated distress message from Vault Tech. Vault 101. Message begins.
It feels like you left home a long time ago, but I know you're still out there. I just hope you're still alive to hear this. Things got worse after you left. My father's gone mad with power. If you can hear this, please stop looking for your dad and help stop mine. I changed the door password to my name. If you're hearing this, and if you still care enough to help me, you should remember it.
I was gonna say this quest is pacifist by default, but I see red on the compass already. Probably a rad roach. They still have problems with them. Although there is one security officer who blames you for the chaos, and he'll attack on sight, so we need to watch out for him. You can complete the quest by killing either one of the faction leaders and anybody who objects to that, but there are many other ways to resolve the situation without violence.
Stop right there. I don't know how you got in here, but... Hold on. Wait a minute. It's you! I hardly recognized you with all the dust and grime from out there. Guess that explains how you got that door open. You've got more experience with it than most everyone down here combined.
I need to talk with Amata. I got her message.
Amata's message? I don't know what you're talking about, but I'd keep that under your hat for her sake. She could get in real trouble if people found out she sent you a message. So could I, just for talking with you now.
Did I say message? You remember how I used to get those psychic premonitions from time to time, right? I meant to say I had a vision that she was in trouble.
Maybe. She isn't the only one, that's for sure. Ever since last night, it's been madness down here. Nothing but trouble.
What sort of trouble do you mean?
The night you and your dad left, everything went crazy. Between the bugs and the confusion, we lost a lot of people. When your dad opened up that gate, he let loose a whole lot of crap, if you'll pardon my language.
Dad would be horrified to know all that, if he were still alive.
I'm sorry to hear that. Regardless of how things turned out down here, he was a good friend. I always figured he'd do well outside. Matter of fact, a lot of folks started thinking he had the right idea. He usually did. So, if it was safe out there, why stay down here forever? Well, the Overseer didn't like that one bit, and started cracking down on that sort of thought. Guess he didn't plan on you coming back. Meanwhile, some of your old friends think opening the vault is a good idea. I bet those rebels would like a word with you. Now more than ever.
Wait, why don't the rebels just leave?
It's not that they want to leave. It's that they want to open the door and interact with the rest of the world. But that would risk the whole vault.
Okay, I'll go see what I can do about all this.
Well, okay. Just be careful down here. The vault's changed, I tell you.
which is true in a meta sense as well. This vault interior isn't the same one as the tutorial. The overall floor plan is the same, but they both have areas that aren't accessible or don't even exist in the other. It's not a big problem for navigation, but you can see what was behind some previously locked doors, if nothing else.
You know I can't do that, Freddie. Now get back down below before I have to do something we'll both regret.
What? You gonna lock me up like you did to Brotch? You can't cage a tunnel snake, man, because we rule!
Stay back!
The first example is that door Freddy's gonna exit through in a minute.
Holy crap, you're crazy! Hey, good to see you again.
Hey, Freddy. Good to see you. I can't believe they almost shot you.
I tell you, those guards are getting nastier every day. One of these days, it's gonna turn real ugly. But I'll be ready for it. The overseer thinks he's in charge of us, just because it's his job? Well, nuts to that. We do what we want, and we want to open the vault.
Well, I'll see what I can do. Later.
Bye.
Now, this is the door we came out of when we reached the atrium during our escape, but now it's inaccessible. The other side is blocked off with an improvised barricade, which I guess is implied Freddy just put up. Very quickly, now that I think about it. So we can't go straight to the clinic where the rebels are holed up. And we might as well get Officer Taylor's take on the situation. You almost shot Freddy.
I didn't mean to fire. I really didn't. I just wanted to scare him off. But he had a knife. I can't be too careful with those rebels.
How do you think Officer Gomez would feel if you shot his son, you maniac?
I tell you, I'm scared of them. I never know when they're gonna try something dangerous.
Tunnel snakes, dangerous. Whatever, dude. I have to go now.
Yes, you do.
We know the open door to the upper level leads to the computer room, the jail, and the overseer's office, but we don't want to talk to him just yet. But now this room, which was inaccessible during the tutorial, is open. Wonder if there's any good loot in here. Apparently not. Anyway, this comes out right across from our old room. In fact, let's take a look in there. This quest is your last chance to grab some things from the vault if you forgot them during the tutorial. I'm not sure if the Grognak magazine would still be in your dresser if you didn't grab it then, but I know this is a second chance to pick up the medicine bobblehead from Dad's office if you missed it before.
Man, they'd have rushed in here long ago if they didn't know I stole one of their guns from when they issued martial law. Anyway, you gotta help us get out of here. You gotta help me get out of here. Even these rebels just want the option to go outside for lousy trading and stuff. I just want to get the hell out of here for good.
Okay. What exactly do you think you're going to do outside, Butch?
I'll start a gang, of course. Why, it'll be the toughest, coolest, badassest gang the Wasteland's ever seen. Hey, play your cards right, maybe I'll even let you join it, huh?
Hey, I'm already in the tunnel snakes. You gave me the jacket and everything.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it'll be a new gang. We ain't gonna just be in tunnels, you know. Besides, there's gonna be a lot more people who want to join. Competition's gonna be tough.
That'd be awesome, Butch. I could use somebody to watch my back out there. So, can you tell me what happened that night? Freddie was kind of vague, but he was shook up because Taylor almost shot him.
I heard old Stanley complaining a lot of the stuff down in the reactor got fried pretty bad. Nothing too bad. Yet, but he's always worrying we'll lose air filtration or whatever. Of course, if that happened, guess we'd all have to leave the vault then, huh?
I'll keep it in mind. Bye, Butchie.
Catch you later, maybe.
And you can sabotage the vault so everyone has to leave. But let's talk to Amata.
Oh my God, you're back! You got my message and actually came back.
I came as soon as I heard you were in trouble.
Oh, thank you! Everything's gone crazy since you left, and now that you're back, you can help set things straight.
I may have left, but this is still where I grew up. I can't leave it in chaos.
Chaos doesn't even cover it. It's a nightmare down here. People died that night, and all because my father went crazy to keep someone from opening the vault. And worst of all, then we found out the vault had been opened before, and they'd lied about it all our lives.
Here's where we get into the bug fix I talked about back in episode 3. In the vanilla game, if you read the scouting report on the Overseer's terminal before you escape, and then later ask Moira about the armored vault suit at her shop, the game forgets you read the scouting report, so this option wouldn't appear. But now it does. Like I say, I showed how I fixed that back in episode 3, but since then I discovered there was another, more subtle bug with this option about finding a vault suit outside. Which, just because of the way I did things, wouldn't have manifested in this run anyway, but I'll talk about what can happen and how I fixed it at the end. Anyway, yeah, I found out about that when I left. Sorry, I didn't have time to stop and chat on my way out of the vault. People trying to kill me and all that.
What? How long did you know about this? You know what? Never mind. What's important is that now we know that we were lied to all our lives, and that people have died for that lie. And even now, when we most need help, the Overseer still won't let us try to communicate with the outside.
Officer Gomez already told us, but let's get her take on it. Why don't you just leave? It's not difficult, especially now.
It's not that simple. Just because Butch wants to leave this place behind doesn't mean the rest of us want to go away forever. It's our home, and we want to stay here. It's just that since you left, we started thinking maybe the outside wasn't something to be afraid of. But we can't even suggest going outside to communicate or trade at all. Not with the Overseer keeping us trapped down here. You need to stop him.
I'll stop your father and his guards.
You will? Thank goodness for that. No matter what I say, he just doesn't listen. He just spends all day up in his office. But you've actually been outside, so you can tell him what it's like with first-hand experience. Just, please don't do anything rash or hurt him, all right?
You know violence isn't my style, Amata, especially in this playthrough. Don't worry.
I should have remembered. I was just worried. I don't know, maybe your time outside had changed you. Thanks, and good luck talking to him. Let me know when you change his mind.
You've got to change the Overseer's mind.
I'll do my best, Freddie.
Hey.
One thing you can't do during the tutorial, you can only do during this quest, is open the safe in Dad's office. Get to you in a minute, Andy. And we need to put on the utility suit to be able to pick this lock. Leveling up is disabled during the tutorial, so even if you max perception with the special book and make lockpick one of your tag skills, there's no way to get your lockpick skill to 50 before you leave the vault. And here we have one of 3 schematics for the rocket launcher. Having more than one just makes its initial condition better when you build it, but you can use a repair vendor or make multiples and combine them to get the condition up yourself, so this isn't a big deal unless you're a completionist. And a note from Dad and 300 caps. Nice. Now, Andy ruining our birthday cake seemed like a tragedy at the time, but this is a real tragedy. Now I feel kind of bad about dodging Beatrice so she couldn't give me the birthday poem.
How may I serve you, mistress?
Nothing. I feel fine. No injuries.
Be careful.
Anyway, if we retrace our steps the way we escaped in the tutorial, here's Freddy's barricade, which is why we couldn't come straight here from the atrium. As Butch implied, one solution is to sabotage the vault so everyone is forced to leave. The door near Dad's shooting range that's locked during the tutorial is now open, and it lets you access the whole reactor level. I'd go down and show you, but that's one of the places where it's common for Officer Wilkins to catch up with you. If nobody sees you kill him, you can get away with it, but we can't do that. And if other NPCs see him attacking you, all hell breaks loose, so I'm not going down there. Besides, Luz wants to help her friends live their dream, but she's not going to force everybody to evacuate because obviously a lot of them want to stay here. And you can talk to a ton of different characters and get their opinions, but it all boils down to different perspectives on what Officer Gomez and Amata already told us.
Why won't you just leave us alone? You've done enough damage.
Officer Kendall startled me. Thought it might be Wilkins. Another place he can spawn is back in the computer room, so we don't want to go back there either. Although, we should be okay if we don't go beyond the security office, and Freddie said Mr. Brotch is locked up in there, and we do want to talk to him. There he is. Presumably in custody because he didn't do enough to suppress anti-authoritarian sentiment among his students. You can unlock the cell with this terminal, or by picking the lock. But one of these lockers has... yes, jail cell password. And some other stuff that'll be worth pretty good money back on the surface.
It's been a while, kid. I guess the goat couldn't have predicted how you'd turn out, could it? Remind me to add a question about rescuing your teacher from the vault jail. If the vault ever goes back to normal, that is. By the way, while I was in there, I heard some worrying things from the guards.
What did you hear?
I heard one of the guards talking about some sort of plan to raid Amata and the rest of us. I didn't hear anything else, but I think he read it on the security terminal. So maybe you can find more there. I'm sure it's bad news for us all.
We basically already know what happened, but let's get his take on it. What happened down here?
It was pretty rough, I'll tell you. I know a lot of folks blame your dad, but I know he didn't mean to cause all that. Don't blame him or yourself.
And tell me about the rebels.
Most of them are just kids who are caught up in the idea of seeing the world. But I know we've got to actually open the vault if we want to survive. Otherwise, we're just going to dwindle away down here until it's all too late.
Okay. I have to go now.
Watch yourself down here.
He just hinted at the real reason I think the rebels are right, but more on that in a minute. First, let's read the security note he told us about. In light of increased agitation from the rebel elements, I've come to the conclusion that we can no longer afford to be merciful to this scum. While some may hold out hope for a peaceful resolution, it's only a matter of time before they decide to take the fight to us, or worse yet, our families. I propose a midnight raid into their compound. Live ammo, zero tolerance. Make an example of the first two who fight back, and the rest will fall in line. We may lose a kid or two, but we'll save the vault as a whole, and that's what counts. You are not to inform the Overseer and some of our softer security guards about this plan, as they will only object and ensure our defeat. Once the deal's done, they'll see it was worth the price. This'll show those scum what happens when you step out of line in our vault. So the rebels have a bigger problem than just the Overseer. And reading between the lines, the Overseer might have a bigger problem than just the rebels. If his hardline guards think he's too soft, it wouldn't surprise me if they eventually got to the point of considering a military coup. But back to what Mr. Brotch said, the biggest problem they all have is population collapse and the loss of genetic diversity. Obviously, the number of people you can talk to is nowhere near a sustainable population, but that's due to technical limitations of game platforms back then. Inaccessible areas and characters who are mentioned but never seen imply that the population of the vault is much larger than just the people you can interact with. But even if you assume there are 10 people off camera for every one we see, there are hints as far back as the tutorial that the vault population is declining. And just for old time's sake, we'll stop in Amata's room and steal her bobby pins. Like, some of the messages on the propaganda signs encourage reproduction. Old Lady Palmer, or maybe Beatrice, has a line of dialogue about it, but we didn't actually talk to anybody because I was more focused on showing off the changes in the mod. But Luz grew up here, so we can assume she knows all that, even if I didn't actually pay attention to those hints while playing. And now let's go talk to the Overseer.
Done with the dust and ruins of the wasteland, are you? Given up looking for Daddy? Thought you could just slink back in like a teen missing curfew? Well, that's too bad. You have no future in this vault. You're tainted.
Tainted? I've stuck to my principles. You're the crazy bastard who murdered Jonas.
First of all, I didn't kill Jonas. I commanded Chief Hannon to do so, but only because it had to be done. Jonas was going to leave with your father. If he left, others would have left to join them, and they'd all vanish into the wastes, never to return. And with our numbers so depleted, we wouldn't be able to last beyond another generation, assuming our expatriates didn't lead raiders to us first.
You're not protecting your people, you're destroying them. Can't you see that?
I'm afraid you're the short-sighted one here. I'm simply keeping them safe and untouched by the war above. The real danger are the rebels and insurgents who insist on risking all of our lives just to die out there in the wastes. If they weren't trying to throw our lives away like that, We could go back to the peaceful life we once had. Everyone would be happy again.
You're delusional. But I believe I have the solution to the vault's problems.
Oh, do you? What makes you think you know how better to protect this vault?
If you remember back in episode 3, I said there was another bug related to what you do or don't know about the vault having been opened in the past, but it'd be a lot easier to explain when we got to that point. Well, this is that point. This dialogue option doesn't appear at all in the vanilla game, although the Overseer's response to it can, but almost comically out of context. I'll show you how it normally plays out in the technical part of the video, but I'm pretty sure this is how it was intended to work. I know that the vault's been opened before, and that you lied about its isolation.
The previous overseers were idiots, and we nearly died because of their naivete. I'm simply trying to make up for their mistakes. In a generation or two, no one will remember it ever happened, and we'll still be the safest, purest humans left. But for that to happen, we can't let ourselves be further tarnished by outsiders.
Meaning my dad. And me, of course. Cute. You realize that killing Jonas to keep him from leaving also removed him from the gene pool, right? I know, he was just an example, but how many more people have died since then? Even if you prevent anyone else from leaving, you simply don't have enough people left to stay isolated down here forever.
We can make more. That's what humanity does. It survives.
Well, since we failed the speech check, we'll have to play the Rogue Guards card. You can bail out at this point to do more investigating, or do the sabotage, or even change sides, but since we already saw the security terminal, we can resolve it right now. Listen, you are so out of touch. You can't even keep your own security in line. Did you know they're planning to raid the rebels?
Damn it! I told them I won't let this degenerate into violence again. The vault simply can't take the instability anymore. But maybe you're right. They simply can't stand the pressure anymore, and now the purity and perfection of my vault is crumbling all around me.
The only mission your vault ever had was keeping its residents alive.
And you expect me to believe that the only way to do that is to let them travel out in the wastes and mingle with those savages? I suppose it would allow them to stay alive, and we could still keep the vault as our safe haven. But it'd require a new type of leader. And I know only one person with the proper attitude to do that. I'll inform my daughter Amata that she is the new overseer, effective immediately.
And now he runs off to tell her.
Go ahead and start something. I dare you.
Never even crossed my mind, dude. In fact, I'm not sure if Wilkins stays hostile after the Overseer abdicates, so we'll just go the other way. Can't believe he beat me down here.
You did it!
Yep. I'd do anything for you, Butchie.
Amata, everyone, listen closely. After a discussion with your friend, I've made an important decision. In my attempts to keep us all safe, I have been, perhaps, overzealous. Lives have been lost, but perhaps worse than that, lives have been stopped. And in my attempts to keep you safe, I have kept you from growing up. I know I have made these mistakes, and I would make them again if I had to do so. That is why I cannot remain your overseer.
Father!
Amata, I appoint you overseer in my place. You've proven you have what it takes to make hard choices for the good of the vaults. I'm just sorry I didn't understand that earlier. Consider it one of many mistakes I've made.
Thank you, Father. I'll do my best to keep us all safe, inside the vault and beyond.
You're welcome, my dear. And now, if you'll excuse me, I feel quite worn down. We'll deal with the details soon, in private. Until then, I'm sure there are people waiting to congratulate you.
It's good to see you again.
You did it!
You're alive!
Yes. I don't mean to be rude, Susie, but I was actually trying to talk to Amata. But I have to say, whatever was going on with you and the Overseer, it kind of undermined the gravitas of handing over authority to a new generation, and I approve of that wholeheartedly.
I just heard. My father says he's stepping down as Overseer. He won't tell me why, but I have to assume it's something you said to him.
I just had a little talk with him and explained a few things. All quite civil.
You and him? Civil? I expected you to change out in the wasteland, but not that much. But I guess we'll all be learning a bit about the outside now, won't we? As the new Overseer, I'm planning on opening the vault. This time, for good. It's a bright new day for the vault, but I'm afraid there's one thing that has to change.
I've got a bad feeling about this. What is it?
There are still so many things to repair, and a lot of bad feelings to mend. Some people still blame you for what happened. So, I have to ask you to leave. I'm sorry, but the situation is just too delicate for you to stay. Please, if you really want to help the vault, you have to go.
Oh, is that all? I mean, I wasn't planning on staying. I have important things to do outside. But I understand. Goodbye, Amata.
We can never really thank you enough for everything you've done. It's not much, but take this with you, to remember us by. It'll be a while before we're actually ready to go outside. But once the vault is stable again, maybe we'll see you out there. So, I guess this is goodbye for now. But with luck, we'll meet again.
Modified utility jumpsuit. Oh, did you think I needed some protection because I came in wearing my lab coat? I mean, not that I don't appreciate the gift, but check this out.
Sorry to see you go.
Me too. Bye, Christine. Anyway, pretty sweet, huh? Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal out in the wasteland. I mean, nothing as important as being the Overseer or anything, but I'm doing all right. Hey, Butch. What do you think? I know it's not as sexy as a skin-tight vault suit, but I think it has potential as a gang uniform. If I ever see you outside and you're still interested in that, maybe I can hook you up.
Sorry to see you go.
And Luce isn't just trying too hard to impress her old friends. Well, maybe a little. But I realized I was an idiot for bringing this. Once we leave, we can never get back in, so I want to do some looting before we go, and bringing the power armor means 45 pounds of carry capacity down the drain. But unlike speed, where you're faster carrying the power armor than wearing it, encumbrance is the other way around. The strength buff will let us carry 20 extra pounds if we're wearing it, but not if we're carrying it. And even then, we're down 25 pounds of capacity compared to just leaving it at home, so we need to be extra picky about the value-to-weight ratio of what we take. Okay, I wasn't recording because I thought looting would be dull, but I stole everything from the Overseer's office, not realizing he was right behind me, and he chased me all the way to the exit. I mean, why was he there? He's not the Overseer anymore. Maybe he went back to clear out his desk or something. But actually, that feels more appropriate than just slinking away after Amata kicked us out. Alright, back to Megaton. Oh cool, looks like there's a caravan here. Don't even have to wait for Moira to open. And who is it? Looks like it's Lucky Harith.
Yes?
Perfect for selling stolen weapons and ammo.
Here to shop? Have a look.
I don't know what happened to Deputy Weld, but he is dead. I heard a giant ant scuttling around on my way to Vault 101, and I guess Harith and his guard killed it, but a Protectron would usually take out a few giant ants on its own. Well, on the bright side, now I don't have to worry about him interrupting me when I'm monologuing on the way out of Megaton. Amata's gift is terrible. Same damage resistance and repair buff as my utility suit, weighs twice as much, and doesn't buff lockpicking. +1 luck is okay if you're playing a high crit build, but for a no-kill run, that's useless, and the environment suit Moira gave us has better rad resistance for situations when we need that. I guess I'll keep it for sentimental reasons, but I will never wear it. Anyway, there wasn't a lot of dead air during Trouble on the Homefront, probably because, like I said, that quest is non-violent by default, so there weren't long stretches of me sneaking around not saying anything because I'm concentrating on the game, which gets edited out of other episodes. So I'm going to save here and show you the bug fixes I talked about, and we'll get on with finding a Gek next time. I showed you the fix for Moira's dialogue back in episode 3, but here's a quick recap. The scouting report on the Overseer's terminal sets the variable ms16.passedopening to 2, which means you got the full story. Moira's MS03 Vault Questions 1b topic sets it to 1, which means you know you're not the first person to leave the vault, but not the exact circumstances of the previous expedition, so the game forgets you read the scouting report. So I overrode MS03 Vault Questions 1b and changed the result script to add 1 to ms16.passedopening instead of setting it to 1. Now the possible values are 0, which still means you know nothing, 1, which still means you saw the vault suit but didn't read the scouting report, 2, which still means you read the scouting report but didn't see the vault suit, and 3, which now means you have both clues. There are hints in the game files that this is how it was always supposed to work, but watch episode 3 if you want the details on that. The new wrinkle I discovered since then was that the conditions on Amata's dialogue about the vault suit include: the vault suit in Moira's shop is disabled, which means you either stole it or she gave it to you, and ms16.passedopening is 1, which means you talked about it before she asked you to help with the Wasteland Survival Guide, which doesn't really make sense plot-wise. You could steal it and never even talk to Moira, or you could ask her about it and then refuse to help with the Wasteland Survival Guide, in which case she wouldn't give it to you. But as long as the game knows you saw it, you should be able to tell Amata about it. So I just overrode that topic and changed the and to an or. I also added another or, so the conditions will be satisfied if ms16.passedopening is 1, meaning you asked Moira about the vault suit without seeing the scouting report, or 3, meaning you read the scouting report and saw the vault suit. So now you can talk to Amata about the vault suit if you got it, no matter how, or if you asked Moira about it, or both. And now for the really weird one. Here's how the Overseer's dialogue goes without the mod. When you try to persuade him to allow the rebels to go outside, you don't get an option to tell him you know the vault was previously open. By the way, I used the console to trash my speech and charisma to make it harder to pass the speech check about genetic diversity and population collapse. You simply don't have enough people left to stay isolated down here forever. And if we fail...
The previous Overseers were idiots, and we nearly died because of their naivete. I'm simply trying to make up for their mistakes. In a generation or two, no one will remember it ever happened, and we'll still be the safest, purest humans left. But for that to happen, we can't let ourselves be further tarnished by outsiders.
He says that line about previous expeditions outside, which is like, what? That has nothing to do with what I just said. But with the mod, that line is where it should be, and he gives the correct response if you fail the speech check. Now, this bug isn't your garden variety Fallout dialogue bug, where there's just a simple problem like a condition is set to check the NPC's inventory or stats instead of the player's, or vice versa. Or even with a variable getting set incorrectly, like how talking to Moira about the armored vault suit makes the game forget you read the scouting report. This seems like a misunderstanding about how speech challenge failures work. So let's look at one that works correctly for reference. Meg Moriarty Choice 2A is a speech challenge you can try with Moriarty when you're looking for Dad. I didn't attempt it because I thought we could find Dad on our own. But if you do, and your speech check is successful, he says these lines in the response text, just like you'd expect with any normal topic. But if you fail, there's a single topic, appropriately named Speech Challenge Failure, that handles the fail case for every speech challenge in the game. We only see 2 of them right now because I have the dialogue filtered to just Moriarty's lines. There's nothing in the prompt field because it's not used. The prompt the player sees is back in Meg Moriarty 2A. But if you fail, the NPC doesn't say those lines. The game picks a response from the speech challenge failure topic, and that's what the NPC says instead. These responses usually use the link from field to specify which topic they'll handle failures from, although if you set the right conditions, that's not technically necessary. Like they could have added conditions to check the quest stage or something, but that's not as reliable because using the link from field guarantees the game will only choose those lines if the challenge you failed was Meg Moriarty Choice 2A. Now, let's take a look at the Overseer's speech challenge. MS-16 options stop you 2A is the challenge we failed, about not having enough people to stay isolated, which looks normal. But if we look at the speech challenge failure, first we see he has 3 responses, which is odd because he only has 2 speech challenges. The first one has no link from field, but it does have a condition for the quest stage being 180, which means you sabotaged the vault. If he confronts you, you can lie and tell him the rebels did it, and pass or fail, that one works fine. But the other 2 don't have link from fields either, and they both have a condition for quest stage less than 100, which means you're still working on a solution. So they both match MS-16 options stop you 2A. The third response makes perfect contextual sense if you fail, and it has prompt text that matches the prompt from MS-16 options stop you 2A, even though it's mildly suspicious that it has prompt text at all, because, like I said, any prompt text in the speech challenge failure topic is completely redundant and never displayed. The problem is the one in the middle. It has an additional condition, that MS-16.PassedOpening is 2, which it will be if you read the scouting report but never asked Moira about the vault suit. And that could easily happen because you can start the Wasteland Survival Guide without asking her about it, in which case the other bug that overwrites the variable wouldn't be triggered. Or if you do Trouble on the Homefront before you start the Wasteland Survival Guide. And if that's the case, this response is the first one that matches, and that's what the Overseer says, and it's obviously a total non sequitur in the context of the conversation. And the smoking gun is, it also has a prompt text which doesn't appear anywhere else in his dialogue. So they obviously didn't intend this to be his response if you fail the speech check where you ask him about population collapse. Maybe they wanted it to be a 2-stage fail, where first you'd ask about previous expeditions, and if you fail that check, you can follow up immediately with another speech challenge about population collapse. But A, that's not how the dialogue system works, and B, even if it was, that would be a very awkward segue between 2 unrelated subjects. So my best guess is that it was supposed to be a third persuasion option in addition to population collapse or telling him the guards are going behind his back, and it just wasn't implemented correctly. So that's where I put it. To make it all work, I had to override the legit speech challenge failure topic, so the overridden version is the one the game picks because the APAM dialogue quest has slightly higher priority than MS-16. And I did specify what failure it handles in the link from field because better safe than sorry. Then I copied the bogus speech challenge failure to a new topic, APAM MS-16 options stop you 2D, left the prompt text as is, but changed the condition on passed opening to be greater than or equal to 2 to be compatible with the fix for Moira's armored vault suit bug. And I also had to override the MS-16 stop you topic to add the new option to the list, all very similar to dialogue changes we've seen before. And that's it. As we saw during the playthrough portion of the video, the Overseer's dialogue now works correctly. As always, thanks for watching. Like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.